Welcome to the Spawn Chunks, episode number 48 for Monday, July 15th, 2019. My name is Joel Duggan, and joining me, as always, is my friend Jonny, or as some of you may know him, as Pixel Riffs. Hello, sir.
Hello, another wonderful sunny day and a nice early start for us because we have a guest with us who is in a slightly different time zone, so we all had to get up slightly earlier. I'd love to introduce TheHotDish, aka Devon. She is the manager of the 8-bit community, along with a couple of other people. They have a Minecraft server, but a whole bunch of other stuff. You can find her at twitch.tv/TheHotDish, where she streams several times a week, I think 4 or 5 times a week. Recently joined the 240p stream team, and she is also one of the hosts at twitch.tv/study group, where I recently had the pleasure of sitting down to talk about streaming, the business of streaming, and various other bits besides. Devon, welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hello.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you for getting up so early after you've just eaten a whole bunch of chili peppers the night before. That was quite the marathon stream you're doing.
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So normally we kick off the show talking about what we've been up to in Minecraft, and my ears have been perked up by this 12-hour stream and chili peppers. So, like, Devon, what have you been doing in Minecraft over the weekend?
This weekend, I had my 2,000 follower celebration stream where I streamed for 12 hours straight and just tried to play games with the community, interact, etc. And so we played a lot of Minecraft. On the 8-bit community, we did a lot of community games. Our spawn is specifically built to host mini games in addition to other spawn features. So we did a lot of fun boat races and spent some time there. And then I moved over to the 240p server where it was my very first moment on that server. So it was fresh server feels. You're trying the grind, all that fun stuff. And that's what I've been working on Minecraft. But the peppers essentially was a bit incentive I created where you get to spin a wheel and whatever it lands on, I get to eat. And I have regrets.
Because the whole setup of it is it's mostly chili peppers, but occasionally there's pudding.
Yeah, we call it painter pudding. Yes.
That's such.
One of the options is also raisins because raisins are awful.
I like that you get to include something that isn't devilishly spicy, but it's just like I don't really like this thing. It's like yeah. It's like if you had to have me eat like I don't know, some kind of like squishy seafood thing or something, I'd be like that's probably about as bad as a chili pepper for me.
Brussels sprouts or something.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah. Boiled Brussels sprouts, at least. I do some pretty good Brussels sprouts. If you fry them with honey and bacon, oh, it's so good. Anyway.
Honey?
Yeah. You throw some honey in the pan. We're getting off track. This is unless this is food that they're planning to add to Minecraft. We should probably save that for the post show. So yeah, no problem. It's fine. There will be tangents. If there's one thing I've learned about podcasting over the last nearly year of doing this show, there will absolutely be tangents. So, 240p server is a server that a lot of other streamers play on. At a brief recollection, the cast includes folks like Grimly, Stingin, Oneboard Chicky. Who else is on there that I'm not remembering?
Is that the one that Jancy's on?
Yeah, I think Jancy is on there or was on there at one point. Yeah, so yeah, there's a memorable cast of streamers on there, which for some reason I'm having difficulty remembering. But yeah, super cool that you're part of the stream team. I believe your kind of partner in crime from the 8-bit server, Boz99, is also on the server. So yeah, you've at least got some familiar faces on there.
Yeah, I mean, he's having his debut today, and I'm so proud.
So proud of this little community growing up. Awesome stuff.
So what are your plans on the 240p server? Do you have like a big build in mind?
I picked a bio. I was originally going to build in a swamp because I recently released a new emote, which is essentially Kappa Shrek. And so I guess I've been on the Shrek kick. And so I was going to find a swamp and essentially rebuild Shrek's swamp just for the meme. I have a tendency, because 240p, all of those people are so good at building, and when I build, it takes a very long time to build something that looks nice. So I tried to keep it small, so I was going to stick to Shrek's hut, because even if I build it horribly, it's still going to look like Shrek's hut.
And the best part of that is there are also donkeys in Minecraft, so you can complete the picture quite easily that way.
Precisely.
Nice. I can see the name tag, donkey, on donkey.
Super easy. and then you've got to have 3 little pigs, and like the cast just builds itself up at that point. I'm pretty sure that there's all kinds of fairy tale creatures from Shrek that could probably be translated into Minecraft quite easily if I had to guess.
Oh yes, now you guys are taking this to a whole level I didn't even consider. So this is fantastic.
There you go. This is an inspirational podcast, if nothing else. That's what I always say.
The idea machine marches forward. Johnny, what about you? What have you been doing in Minecraft this week?
Well, speaking of huts in the swamp, I did my first witch farm this week, which was pretty exciting. That took a few days worth of work, but it was worthwhile. It's now churning out a decent amount of redstone and gunpowder, and ultimately it was, once again, content for the Minecraft Survival Guide, kind of showing people, trying to demystify witch farms a little bit, because people see the witch farms that folks on Hermitcraft do, like looking at you, Mumbo Jumbo. Nobody needs to bomb out like 128 block wide like perimeter just for one witch farm. Like I'm AFKing maybe like 150 blocks above bedrock in the sky, and there is very little stuff spawning around the witch farm that is causing the rates to go down. It could still be really heavily optimized, and half of my comment section is still like recommending things that I can do to optimize it, and I'm like, guys, it's fine. I've placed a bunch of sea lanterns around it because there's an ocean biome around it, and so I'm trying to prevent drowned from spawning. But aside from that, there really isn't much else I need to do, and it's still getting me, if I AFK overnight, it's getting me a full double chest of redstone. So it's not a huge deal, and ultimately a fun project, one I'd never tried before. Outside of that, I built a charcoal burner and built a giant tree stump around that, and today's episode of Minecraft Survival Guide was all about data packs, so I was looking at some of the kind of the extracurricular Minecraft stuff a little bit. Having touched on resource packs and stuff before this time, I was like, let's get into some of the game-changing stuff now, but not on a permanent basis, because my ethos for the show is still, let's keep everything default vanilla Minecraft, something that everybody can understand, and I don't want to remind everybody constantly, I'm playing with a data pack, so this isn't going to be the same as it is in your world. Like, I don't want that kind of hassle, so... Yeah. And I did get a few people saying, like, I hope you don't play with that Player Graves pack all the time. It seems a little bit cheaty. I'm like, guys, don't worry about it. It's fine. I'm just going to go back to the normal stuff in the next episode. This week's project is finally getting on to doing the end hub, so connecting up all of the gateways in the end, now that I've fought the dragon enough times as I need to generate all of the end gateways out to the outer islands, and making all of those accessible. And I'm thinking in the long term that's going to become a Fifth Element style, like, spaceport, which is kind of an exciting project, but also a really intimidating one. So we'll see how that goes.
Nice. Yeah, that would be very cool looking, but also ginormous.
Yeah. It's pretty ginormous already. If you measure the distance between the two furthest points on that circle of end gateways, it's 193 blocks. So having recently built a 137 block wide circle for my nether hub, a 256 block wide circle for the perimeter of the witch farm, I'm now building a 193 block wide circle in the end, and I'm like, when will I stop building circles? This is my curse at this point. But everybody in the stream popping in saying, oh, circles in Minecraft, that's illegal and stuff, but it's fine.
Yeah.
It's been a fun project so far.
It's like that line from Castaway where Tom Hanks says, we have to make rope again. And it's like, we have to make circles again.
Yes, basically.
And plays game made entirely of squares, only builds circles.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's me. That's me at this point. Yeah. So how about you, Joel? I know you'd been having issues technical wise with Minecraft. Are those resolved yet, or is that still happening?
They have not been resolved, at least not for me, because the new release is not out yet, and this will take us kind of like gently into the news, but I still can't play Minecraft without getting seasick. Like, it is brutal. I've tried a couple times doing different things. I've tried like logging on and just like mining trees and just like looking at what I needed in my chests, moving around as little as possible, and just like, okay, what do I need to do? Like, what furnaces could I stock? What things could I do that are a pain in the butt or boring that I could just kind of like get out of the way, so that the next time I stream, when this thing is functioning, I'm all set. And even that, like, even just logging in and moving around your various workrooms and different builds, it was just it really I only lasted about 20 minutes before I started to get a headache. So
it's funny that you bring up the seasick analogy, because that actually reminds me of being ill. It's like you're confined to your house, you're just kind of wandering around a couple of rooms, being like, okay, I have to do something productive. What can I tidy before I start to feel sick? It's like having bugs like that is actually like being ill in Minecraft somehow. That's so weird.
It is really strange. Yeah. The only thing that I was able to do, because I am going to need a lot of concrete, was stand at a concrete maker and just like hold right click and just, do your thing. But the thing with this particular bug for Mac anyway is MC154271, and it was quoted as a rolling shutter issue in macOS since 1.14.3 pre-release 2. Now there's a number of other versions that have also been affected, including the latest pre-release 5 that's out for 1.14.4. Now this morning, just before the show, Sliced Lime had marked this bug as resolved, which means hopefully it will be fixed in the full 1.14.4 release. But for me, it started off as just like a pixelated screen tear kind of at the bottom. I thought it was a VSync issue. Optifine does help a little bit, but as either, I don't think that these things can get worse. I think it's just that if you play for longer, it affects you more. And I also noticed like some frame stuttering. I've also noticed it's much worse in situations where you have large areas of the same texture, like Endstone or Netherrack. Mm-hmm. And I find even moving side to side, looking around, creates kind of a disconnect or a strobe effect. And I think that's what was giving me a headache. And so I am cautiously optimistic that this is fixed, along with one of the other Mac bugs that was related to processing power or processing consumption with Java Edition in last week's show. So I'm hoping moving forward that I can return, because this is, as we'll get into it in the main discussion, this has become kind of an issue for me. However, I did do some streaming over the weekend. I actually played Cities Skylines, which is a game that I picked up on the Steam summer sale. And I will bring this back to Minecraft because I realized I play so much Minecraft that I am Minecraft controlled by default. So I started doing all these things, hotkeys in City Skylines that just don't work. They're it's not a thing. You just
you're why can't I WASD in this city building game?
Yeah, or you can, but it doesn't affect it the same way. Like the camera controls in that game they're bad. Like the fact that I can't scroll around that map with a mouse, that I have to use a keyboard, is like 1998. Like, come on. It's rough. I did get used to it after a while, and unfortunately, the experience that I was looking for from the game was not great. However, I did start to get inspired for a city that I want to build in Minecraft by building the city in City Skylines and seeing how they handle the low poly graphics for the roads and the houses. And what's nice about that game is that, and for anybody that is out there that knows of it or can go find someone that's played it, if the person playing is close enough to the ground, you can see quite a lot of detail. You can see cars, you can see the buildings, and the residential districts. You just designate districts, and then random buildings come up, whether it's a house or an apartment building or a duplex or whatever. Same with commercial. Is it a donut shop? Is it a drugstore? You don't know. It just kind of does whatever it does. And I find that really interesting and really cool in terms of, like, we always think about building in Minecraft is like, well, what is the building I'm going to make? And in Cities Skylines, I was looking at this like, oh, I have to remember when I'm building my city to add parking lots and green space between sidewalks. And like, there's all these little things that are in this game that really kind of make the, grabbing a city plot, say in Minecraft, just because you've got a 32 by 32 plot doesn't mean you have to make the building 32 by 32. Like, you could put the building in the corner and build it whatever size you want, but then have like some greenery and a yard and a path. And so I have to start paying a closer attention, I think, to stuff like that if I'm going to start this modern city in Minecraft. So it wasn't a fruitless Minecraft week. I just didn't actually play Minecraft very much.
Sure. You're getting a holistic look at city planning by playing something else.
A lot of ideas. So my brain has been on Minecraft like high octane because I can't play it, which is frustrating. But hopefully that will change, because moving on into the news, we've got a few news points that we'll talk about briefly, and then we'll have a little bit of a chat about them. But the first one is that Minecraft 1.14.4 pre-release 5 was released since our last episode. There are numerous small changes, mostly related to villager trading and pricing and UI bugs. Also, 14.4 pre-release 4 was released, and there are a few other bugs in this one, specifically breaking blocks reappear to nudge the player off of a pillar, like when you're digging straight down, like if you have pillared up and you're coming back down. So that's been fixed. Villagers aren't shutting doors behind them. That's bad. If you're doing raids and your villagers are running inside and leaving the door wide open, not helpful. And aquatic mobs were not spawning, and or fish spawned from buckets were counting back towards the aquatic mob cap again. So there's a few more serious bugs in pre-release 4 that they have addressed. But all of this is hopefully coming out soon. We don't have any news at this point on when 14.4 will be released in full. But the bug tracker and the updates in the pre-releases have been smaller and smaller. Like they seem to be narrowing down to where they want to be for the release.
Yeah, so keep an eye on all of the devs' Twitter feeds after this show, because chances are, it will have come out between us recording and publishing this show. Fingers crossed,
Absolutely.
at least, because I want you to be able to play Minecraft again, Joel. That's the main thing.
Yeah, me too. Now, Jonny, I know you've been keeping your eye on Minecraft Earth.
Yes, this week we had a Minecraft Earth gameplay trailer in the form of an announcement for the closed beta, which is coming up really soon. If you haven't signed up already, make sure you go to minecraft.net/earth and get on the mailing list for that, because chances are they'll be handing out beta kind of keys in the next little while. But there was actual gameplay in this, which I thought was really worth taking a deep dive on, because we saw a map kind of based interface, kind of what you might be you might be familiar with through games like Pokemon Go, much as we don't want to keep drawing comparisons to the only other AR game people have heard of. The resource collecting tappable section, so when you're walking around your neighborhood finding blocks, finding chests and mobs and that kind of stuff that you can tap on, does look quite similar to the Pokemon Go or Ingress style of gameplay. But then later on in the trailer, you get the AR stuff. You get people playing Minecraft in the real world. There's footage of a few guys sort of hanging around a picnic bench in a public park is what it looked like, and they were building stuff on this bench and then sizing it up so that it was actually just a big structure built in this park. And it revealed a little bit more about how what they call build plates are going to work. So players are going to gain experience by collecting stuff in the kind of tappable environment, and the build plates seem to be, from what I can tell, different biomes. So typically you're probably going to start with a simple plains biome, but further down the list as it was scrolling through the available build plates, there was one that was more of a snowy tundra environment. There was one that seemed to be a desert. And so as you level up by gaining XP, and there's no word on whether or not this is going to be, microtransaction based either for people who are unable or unwilling to grind for XP and resources and stuff like that. If you might be able to just unlock these build plates somehow through gaining XP and stuff like that. So yeah, it's looking like a pretty solid game at this point. We at least have a better idea of the game mechanics than what we saw from the brief teasers of it, which were mainly at convention halls at E3 or in a closed environment on a stage at WWDC. We saw some kind of pre-prepared demo type of stuff. And while this is obviously still an official trailer, so it still seems like it's in a controlled environment of a fashion, it seems like we're getting a much more natural look at what gameplay looks like now. Devin, have you taken much of an interest in Minecraft Earth? Have you been following the updates about that?
I have and I haven't. I don't want to get my hopes up.
Sure.
I recently downloaded the Wizards Unite, which was the Harry Potter version of Pokemon Go, essentially.
Okay. Yeah.
And I was disappointed because I guess I was trying to find something that was a little bit more unique. But based on what I've been watching with Minecraft Earth, with the buildings, it doesn't look, I don't know, it looks a lot more well put together. Mm-hmm. And I think that'll be a really nice change from walking around and throwing Pokeballs at things.
Yeah.
Because it's giving you a little bit more world interaction. Because with Wizards Unite as well, you pretty much went around and then you used your wand to attack things or save your friends and stuff, and then you would essentially sticker paste that into a book. I think this, with the actual building interface and being able to walk into builds and stuff, will make it immensely more interactive and intriguing.
Yeah, I think that was the problem with Pokemon Go initially, was that it was effectively just a kind of I Spy game, or like a stamp collecting game. Like you just went around the world picking up Pokemon, and if there was a gym nearby, then you could put a Pokemon on it, but there wasn't really much you could do in terms of battling, which was basically what I enjoyed about Pokemon, was like the ability to train and fight these little creatures, and that functionality just wasn't really present which made it very much feel just like, it's like Pokemon Snap. You're just going around like collecting these things without really any goals behind it. Whereas I feel like Minecraft Earth seems to already tie in some of the mechanics that we're used to from the Minecraft we know and love. Actually being able to build stuff with the things you collect and create an environment is effectively, the kind of stuff that we know Minecraft for. So I think it's looking like you say, to be a more overall complete game experience when they release it, rather than starting out with just one or two of these features and the resource collecting stuff and then adding all of the rest of the stuff later, which seems to be what they've done with Pokemon Go.
Yeah, one of the clips that they said, one of the audio clips from the video talked about walking around your neighborhood and collecting resources, including new mobs. They highlight the muddy pig again. But then as you walk around and collect stuff, your inventory of blocks increases, and then you can then go use those blocks to build something. You can also mine blocks from the, what did you call them? The plates? The
build plates, yeah.
Build plates. So the build plates, you can actually mine those. So it kind of got me thinking, like, when I first was looking at this, I was under the impression that this was going to be more of a creative game when you're building. So if you and I want to sit down and, at a park bench and build something, we first have to drop the build plate and then spend 15 minutes mining it out, I guess, to get the blocks that we need.
It might be a little bit closer to survival gameplay than we were at first thinking, unless...
Yeah.
I don't know what they might actually start you out with a bunch of blocks in terms of what you've got in your inventory and then send you out in the world to find more stuff. Or, like I said, if there are microtransactions involved, you might be able to buy a builder's pack for like a certain... Right. You get like bricks and glass and that kind of stuff in there already. And it remains to be seen in terms of stuff like bricks and glass, if you have to smelt all of that stuff, or if that mechanic isn't in the game and you just find bricks and glass available already, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know how much crafting is really going to be involved in it. Seems to be more of like a building and occasional survival mechanics.
Yeah, we've not seen any UI pop up. Like from what I remember, I don't remember seeing any shots of what you see on your screen when you're building, like switching from pickaxe to block and all that kind of stuff. So if you open up a chest or if you go into a crafting bench, I don't know what pops up on the screen in Minecraft Earth. That just kind of made me think of like, well, these things might take a little bit longer to create than we thought, which is fine. I'm not saying that that's necessarily a bad thing, because if it was all creative play, then it takes the mine out of Minecraft, right? Like you're just going to be crafting at that point.
And if they've already taken the craft out of Minecraft by not having actual crafting recipes, then what are we left with?
Exactly.
Just a blank space.
Block placing. But with large builds, when you put them in the world, I thought it was really neat that they showcased in this particular one that the guys were walking inside of it.
Yeah.
Which I think, Devin, is something that you mentioned, and I thought that was really cool. I don't know how that's going to play on my teeny tiny phone. I think people that have larger smartphones will probably get more out of it, and that's fine. But that to me was really neat, because then you could do like little Easter eggs. Like, I mean, think about community events or certain things where you could have scavenger hunts and really hide things inside of buildings that you create and place around, a park or something like that. That could be really, really fun. Although, again, we don't know, but one of the concerns that I had was looking at, building this cool thing, placing it in a park. I guess there's nothing stopping somebody else from coming along and just placing giant stuff in front of your thing. Like in front of the thing that you build, someone could just come along and build a giant skull tower and be just like, well, I know your Princess Pony merry-go-round is very cool, but my skull tower is going right in front of it, and just kind of place it there. So I don't know exactly how quickly it's going to... what's the word I'm looking for? Spiral.
It's gonna get either rude or competitive, or both.
Yes.
Well, I know the rude stuff they addressed in, I want to say, I think it was the WWDC. At some point, they mentioned that there's a lot of moderation. Like there's a lot of control on Mojang's side to make sure that no lewd or inappropriate things are built and placed in public spaces.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think there will at least be a filter of sorts so that you can only see stuff that you or your friends have built. There doesn't seem to be... right. I think they said something about, like, play with your friends, but make sure they're nice friends, because they will be able to affect your builds. So I strongly recommend that anybody who gets Minecraft Earth doesn't like just start friending anybody and everybody because chances are, they will be able to hop into your build and change stuff. Presumably, if they can interact with it. But if you've got friends locally, then you can always hop into the same world and build stuff. So
it would be really cool if you could, from a viewing standpoint, out of just pure like interest, be able to like see everything as you walk down the street, like not interact with it. Like you can't touch it, you can't change it. But imagine if you could walk down the street and just see everything that everyone has built in your neighborhood, and just out of curiosity, you know,
everything is in kind of read-only mode, I guess.
Yeah.
And that, I think that's sort of the vibe they were trying to evoke with their original trailer, where it was somebody just skateboarding around their neighborhood, seeing all of the stuff kind of pop up around them. I think that's potentially the vibe they're looking for, and it remains to be seen whether that's what we're actually going to get from Minecraft Earth. But let's see. Anything else we need to quickly recap from the pre-releases? I'm like you. I think I'm looking forward to 1.14.4. Devin, when you're playing on the 8-bit community server, are you guys updating to the latest version regularly, or are you kind of holding off until the features are kind of more finalized or closer to what you want?
We wait until there's a stable version released, and then we update. Because when it comes to 1.14, essentially, there has been a lot of vanilla public server lag.
Yeah.
And that's like in the system is what's causing all of these lags. It's not the hosting, it's not your individual PC, it's embedded in the code. And so that's been very, very frustrating for us. So whenever we get a chance to update and there's a stable version, we go for it, because whatever it is, it's better than what we've got.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's something that I'm suffering from with my patron server as well, is the lag issue, and people have come to me about it and said, like, we can't generate chunks without waiting for a couple of minutes. Like, if we're trying to generate any new terrain, it's just not happening. I'm like, hands up in the air, I can't do anything about this yet. And it's a little bit frustrating from a server hosting perspective. But let's hope that those new releases bring better things. Let's move on to chunk mail, though, because we actually have a follow-up once again to the discussion that we had from the email last week. And this one comes from Surprise T. Thank you so much for your email. This is regarding Yuzu's email and the lifespan of multiplayer servers. And Surprise says, "Hi, Pix and Joel and TheHotDish. On the topic of a lifespan of multiplayer servers, if a decently sized content creator has a Patreon or Twitch sub server, that could be a good option to try, because new people replace the people who have left the server, but those servers are typically not too big to become a public dumpster fire." Love Surprise. And thank you for that. I'll briefly recap. Our email last week, for people who haven't listened to last week's podcast, was about whether or not you should stop playing on a multiplayer server and consider moving on if it feels like you're the only person there. And I kind of agree with the notion in Surprise's email, where there is kind of a rotating cast of people when it comes to patron servers. People cancel their pledges or cancel their Twitch subs, and then new people are joining somewhat regularly. So it feels like there is usually a bit more longevity in those, because there are some people who are constantly coming in fresh and starting from scratch, and so people are always going to be at different stages of progress. And if somebody runs out of stuff to do and decides to quit, there's usually going to be somebody else coming in who's got something else to do. The one problem I have with this is that obviously Patreon and Twitch sub-servers do rely on you having enough cash to pledge or resub every month. So the paywall is probably going to weed out trolls and griefers pretty effectively, but from your own perspective, it does rely on you being able to, support somebody financially in what they do, but also, effectively pay to be on the server. How about you, Dish? If you're running like the 8-bit server has kind of a join policy, and it's usually just kind of if you hang around and it feels like we like you, is effectively what it boils down to. Obviously, there's a bit more complexity to it than that. But do you get that a lot on your server? Do you get people sort of leaving and joining at equal rates, or do you find that does the population stay stable, or does it fluctuate quite a lot?
I think when we get new updates, we get a huge push, and then what it will do is it'll taper off as people either finish building their massive farms and finish building their redstone automated stuff, and then they get bored and they leave, and then it comes on us to be like, okay, how do we keep these people here, and if not, okay, how do we welcome in the next generation of players?
And if you're picking that new generation of players from Twitch chat, it's sometimes a little bit of a potluck situation. But I think you've got a pretty stable group of people who know what they're doing, and you've got some pretty hefty like anti-griefing, and you've got the ability to roll back stuff if anybody blows up a section of terrain either accidentally or on purpose, right? So. How do you come across those tools and stuff? Because I don't really have that amount of stuff on my server. I typically trust people to just kind of do their thing and play the survival game. But how do you sort of source those tools originally? Like where does all of that stuff come from?
Do you mean like when we actually download it, or where did the idea for us to download it come from?
I mean both really. Like where
okay.
who's provided that stuff, like the plugins and so forth, in the first place? Is there somebody on your server who is the expert? Is that you? Is that somebody else?
When it first began, it was sort of a collective knowledge of several other people, myself, Boz99, Minnesota Taz, even Jay the K. We've all been a part of servers. We've run servers before. So we kind of, when we came into this 8-bit building server, we knew what we needed and we knew what we didn't need it. And fortunately, we brought on someone who loves to get their hands dirty and really dig into plugins. Cathbrace has done a ton of plugin work for us, but as always, I know my basics about plugins. I know what I need. I know how to fix them if I have to, but otherwise there's usually one person on a server who knows everything about the plugins, and then we all just hope that person never leaves.
Yeah, you're just like, we need to keep you around. What can we bribe you with snacks to make sure that you're still here? Yeah.
So this is something that I'm new to. Are plugins now a separate thing in addition to data packs?
Plugins are more of a thing that have been around for a while, and it relies on you having a server host that allows plugins to be part of.
So there's server-side stuff. Okay.
Yeah, it's closer to the kind of stuff you'll find people doing with Spigot or Bungee Cord, where like in Bungee Cord's case, you can have things that teleport you to effectively a different server. They kind of log you into another kind of strand of the server. But right. Plugins like that, if you see, for example, like text coming up on the screen when you log into a multiplayer server like Hypixel or wherever, and it says like, the Hypixel sale is now on, or whatever kind of advertising stuff. Typically, a lot of that stuff used to only be possible through plugins. I think it is possible to do it in Minecraft with data packs and functions and stuff now, but a lot of it originally was done with plugins. And so it's more like stuff like World Edit, for example, Joel, is probably one you'd be more familiar with. That's a plugin. Stuff like, any kind of creative building tools that aren't part of vanilla Minecraft are plugins. And
because you'd have to be able to tell the server to take the information changed in World Painter and then translate that to the game.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. But in this case, there are also plugins that are developed a bit more for server security.
Interesting.
And that's what we use. We use Core Protect, which allows us to essentially look at any block that has been placed by a player, and we can see who placed it and when they placed it. And if we don't like that they placed that block, essentially we can roll it back, and we can do this with hundreds of blocks. And fortunately, this also allows us to copy paste blocks. So if we, for instance, really like a build somewhere, but we want to move that build to a different location, we can also do that, which is very, very helpful, especially since we do have quite a few people who love to build really grand like structures. And we were like, maybe that doesn't go there, but it'd be really, really great over here. Then those plugins are so useful.
Cool.
It's kind of a world we haven't really explored all that much of, because you and I are both fairly like, we are standard survival server hosts. We don't tend to do all that. We're expecting everybody to just kind of play in the same way that people do in single player, just kind of putter along with their own survival stuff. But I think on a livelier server, especially when you've got a stronger sort of a larger cast of people, and you can't be in every place at once to kind of like fix things with commands and stuff, I think having a suite of plugins at your disposal, and having a decent team of moderators as well, because from what I've seen, there's a decent group of responsible adults on the 8-bit community server that seem to have a handle on things.
So one last thing with regards to griefing. Sorry, Devin, you were going to say?
No, you're golden. I was just complimenting my mods. They're amazing.
Oh, good. Good. It really is great to have good mods, I have to say. We have to tip our hats to the Spawn Chunks mods, too. Cosmic and Anagram. So With one last question with regards to griefing, when it comes to patron servers, have you experienced anything where, like a patron decides to leave, they're no longer supporting, they're no longer playing, but then a new player wants to expand their build or do something, and their neighbor who has built a grass hut on day one and left, it's still there. Like what are the general guidelines for how long a player has been gone off the server before their land claim is forfeit? And if you come back, well, sorry, Joe, you're just going to have to start over again because you were gone for 6 months. Devin, do you partake in or run a patron server of your own?
I do not. I've always been an advocate of not having things behind paywalls, just because I know whenever I wanted to find something, I'm like, I didn't want to pay for it because I didn't have a lot of money. So we have our own version of getting onto the server, but we do not do a paywall. But
you still have people trying to build places, and you have to encourage them to be considerate of other people's space. But like, at what point when somebody has clearly not been on the 8-bit community server for a while, do you kind of go, okay, they're probably not coming back, we can give that good land that they had over to somebody else for their project?
We usually, honestly, we don't have something like that in place right now, due to the fact that there is so much space on our server. The only time that we'll usually delete things is if they have been banned. Or I would say probably if somebody came on and was like, what happened to all of my stuff? If I went, hey, you've been gone for 3 months. Like, you can't expect that to still be there, especially if they did build something smaller. If they were doing a mega build, then we would probably leave it there just due to the sheer amount of work they put in. But if it's something that's easier for them to kind of reproduce, then that's perfectly normal for us to be like, okay, it's time to move it. Like, this is fine. But also we encourage people to, if you are building a new place on our server, to scout out the area. And we have a space rule where if you notice that someone is building next to you and you were there first, you can ask them to move. And they have to do that because it's in our rules. And I've only had to really deal with that about twice, and I've spoken to the individuals who had to move, and they were all very gracious about it. They were all very accepting of that, and they understood. So we've been very fortunate to have a very positive approach to that.
I think that's ultimately what you need in any kind of server situation like that, is a solid set of rules that you can point people to and say, look, it says here that you can or cannot do this, and just clarity is the main thing. And clarity and communication. In any kind of relationship, it's going to kind of improve things. But yeah, for servers like that, definitely, especially when you've got a wider group of people and you're effectively inviting some people that you feel like you've got to know through your Twitch chat, and they seem like a good member of the community, but you don't know them in person, and you're not necessarily gonna trust them with your life, but you trust them to build Minecraft stuff in an appropriate way.
Yeah. And that's why we have such like a long waiting period to get on, because we're like, hey, we want to actually get to know you and build up this level of mutual respect for one another, so that you kind of get a feel for what our community is all about and you share that vision rather than just wanting to get on to play Minecraft somewhere. There are so many other places you can do that, but we want to kind of really encourage the sense of community, of getting to know each other, becoming some level of friends, and just exchanging that level of respect.
And if nothing else, it encourages patience, and if you're not a patient person, then you're probably not going to do well on the server to begin with.
Well, speaking of multiplayer servers, that brings us into the first subject of the roundtable discussion. Devin, you had a topic that was very close to the email that we received both last week and this week. So if you don't mind, why don't you go first?
All right. So my topic, when running or participating on a multiplayer server, like, what do we do to keep people interested, correct, and active? And we kind of touched on that earlier, where you have the different generations of people. You have people who get on, build first day, and then leave. How do you keep people there, and how do we essentially keep them interested? And I know the way that we've done this, especially on the server that I run, and I'm going to reference to APC a lot. That's probably, I've spent the most time on that server more than anywhere else. And we actively keep an eye out for the average amount of viewers, or not viewers, apologies, players on at any given moment, and start to see when that starts to decline. And that's when we introduce another activity. So when 1.14 dropped, we didn't do any activities or competitions or anything along those lines for about the first month and a half or so. And because people were already always on and always excited because it was 1.14 and it was something new and shiny. And so we didn't have a lot of issues with that. But as it's gone along, we need to start doing more activities. So we've done build competitions, which is nice, because then we've got people who haven't been able to build in creative, haven't been able to test out all of the new blocks 1.14 has had to offer. And so we do these build competitions, which allow people to kind of stretch a little bit, even if they don't think they're the best builders on the planet. They can come in and they can just practice. They can see what other people are building. They can expand their own build style. They can try out new things. Maybe they don't have a ton of redstone knowledge and they want to practice with that in a space where it's fun. And they have other people to kind of build off of. So we've been doing a lot of those recently, and they've been very, very effective, and people have been having a lot of fun with that. And it's nice because then we can kind of give them prizes within the server itself. Not necessarily a diamond block, so to speak, but we have special spaces where, like, hey, look, you have bragging rights now because you won this competition. And just kind of like in real life where we give people trophies, we'll give them something that maybe isn't super useful when it comes to actually building, but maybe is something they can hang up in their house and be proud of.
That's
cool.
I wonder,
super cool. Yeah.
With your patron servers and everything like that, what have you been working on to kind of keep people engaged?
Personally, I don't have enough time to, like, with the amount of stuff I produce for YouTube at this point, I don't really have enough time to go in and participate really heavily in my patron server. Like, typically I'm just there to keep the peace and to occasionally restore people's items if they lose them to glitches or something like that. And I've taken a very hands-off approach to that server, and typically it's kind of up to people to, you know, make their own fun. But I've seen people doing some pretty cool stuff. A lot of them, they tend to go in more for community survival projects and stuff like that. So they will group together, and a whole bunch of them will spend a week building like a really overpowered with a skeleton nether mob farm or something like that. And I find like my community seems to draw in quite a few people who are very technical and a few people who want to learn technical. So a lot of the time you'll find people hanging around those people just to look at what they do and learn from it as a result. And as far as like the server population goes, yeah, I kind of respect that people are going to be spending a little bit more time away when they've got used to the update and that kind of thing. And most of the time, yeah, that's fine by me. I understand that I could be doing more to kind of engage people and that kind of stuff, but I think of it less as something that I need to maintain and something that they're more sort of making their own fun for themselves. So yeah, I'm definitely not as active in keeping that stuff going. How about you, Joel? Because your server is relatively small as far as population goes, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Max whitelist is somewhere around 10, active players around 4, and those 4 people are on a lot less. Again, a theme for the last few weeks on the show is that because it's nicer out, people are just not playing as much video games. However, I do notice an increase in activity, like when I stream a lot more. Then I find that because I'm on the server doing stuff, people will see me. Like people that are on the server will see the stream and realize, oh, hey, I could log in and help, or I could, we could do that together. And I think the last time we had a community thing, I was streaming and building a road in the Nether, and having to stop and shoot ghasts and stuff. And so a couple of server mates, Alistair and Mattcast, logged in, and they were basically doing crowd control. They were just standing around, they were just chatting in the chat room and just like heads on swivels shooting ghasts for fun. And it became like their own little mini game. So I find stuff like that will happen. But in terms of like keeping engagement or doing any kind of group projects, every once in a while we'll decide to do like a group farm, like the gold farm or creeper farm or something, where everyone is going to benefit from the farm, because it makes more sense to build it as a community farm, because it pumps out so many items that we would end up with a storage problem if we didn't allow everyone to use the farm. And those sort of situations are good, but I find that we don't space those out. It's like all of a sudden, like 3 of us will play for a day and just like pump out this creeper farm. So, well, that could have been a couple of weeks of content, not content, but just like stuff to do. Like if you're looking for something to do for an hour before you go to bed, or, log in at the end of the day to play. If we had done the creeper farm slowly, then that's the kind of thing that would have been drawn out a little bit more. But we tend to rip that kind of stuff off like a Band-Aid. It's like, oh, we need this thing. Bam, done. Okay, next thing. But really, we haven't had too much of an issue. We've had a couple people leave, but because the community was so small, that's just a simple conversation with me and someone on Discord being like, hey, if you're not going to come back, then we're going to be welcoming in some new people, and we kind of need the space that you half built your thing on. So we're going to move in and just kind of smooth that over, or allow someone, if they want to go that way. And that conversation, when addressed like an adult, is usually received like an adult. They're like, yeah, I've not been on for 6 months and I don't think I'm going to come back. It's like, all right, well, I mean, you're welcome too, but like if you're not going to participate now, then as this community build, because we've got a space called Dartmouth Meadows, and as the Dartmouth Meadows expands, we start to run into perhaps satellite things that people have built, right? As the town gets larger. And so sometimes you have to say like, well, does that thing really need to be there? Because we would like to build a road through here, or, whatever that is, that's a simple example. And I find that usually, like you said, Jonny, clarity, and conversation about that kind of stuff, when it's approached the right way, then people are usually pretty positive about it. And Devin, I think you also said that, when you asked people to move on the server, they were probably pretty open to it. They probably didn't even realize they were building that close to someone. If I was to guess, right? Like everybody gets tunnel vision in Minecraft, and you start building your thing, and then you go over the hill, and you're like, oh crap, I have a neighbor like right here.
That literally happened last week. This poor kid. I look up from my house, and I'd been building there since the beginning. We started the server, and I look up and I just see these towers in the background. And I'm like, what is that? And these things are within like 50 blocks of my house. And I'm like, what is? So I go over there and I see that they were building, and I was like, have you like scouted in this area? And they're like, no. I'm like, do you want to follow me? And I take them just behind their build, and I was like, look into the distance. And you just see my entire build just looming.
Yeah, you're like, everything the light touches is my kingdom. Yeah.
Pretty much. I felt so bad. And they're like, can I just mine the other direction? I'm like, we already have 5 people in this area. Trust me, this is for both of us. You do not want to build here.
Yeah, it's amazing how often that happens, though. Like, I remember watching, it was episode 1 of Achievement Hunter's Minecraft Let's Play ages ago, where like they weren't really sure about how everything was going to go in their world, and they didn't know the controls, half of them, and so they all end up dying after they built like half a house somewhere, and they started building another house because they weren't sure how to get back to it, and then one of them turned to the left and it was literally like 10 blocks away. So they just started building a house next to their original house, and they had no idea. So it happens, like especially when there's just open landscape and there are no real landmarks for you to get your bearings by. It can get a bit disorienting, and for people who play on lower render distances and stuff, sometimes the stuff just pops out of the fog that you had no idea was there before. So let's roll that into my discussion, actually, because this week I put 2 discussion topics to our Discord members in what I call the emote vote. So they just like add a reaction emote to whichever one they want to thumbs up, and we tend to pick the topic that gets the most votes. This week it was a tie, so I'm going with my favorite of the 2, which kind of feeds in from this discussion as well, but on a more personal level. What's a go-to task or project that keeps you interested in Minecraft? So aside from, wanting to engage your community and stuff, what keeps you coming back? So if we feel tired of our current projects, but you don't want to take a hiatus from Minecraft for whatever reason, what do you do? Is there an activity like exploring? Do you prefer to switch from a build-centric project to a redstone-centric project? Kind of let you blow the cobwebs out and come back refreshed? Does starting fresh in a brand new world always re-energize you? And by extension, why does Minecraft feel like something we can't take a hiatus from? Because we've talked in the past about, go and play another game, but everyone always asks that question, like, how can I feel excited about playing Minecraft again in the middle of this update? So, Devin, how do you do that? Do you tend to start a new build? Do you tend to go exploring? Do you participate in build contests yourself? What helps Minecraft feel fresh to you after you've been playing it for a little while?
I actually I get distracted very, very easily. And even when I'm playing by myself. So I have a tendency, I have a list that I make of things that I have to get done for my build. And so what I'll do is whenever I'm feeling bored with one thing, I'll just go down that list. For instance, I needed to make tiki torches to put outside my house in Minecraft the other day. And to make tiki torches, I needed leads. And to make leads, I needed slime. And I also needed to strip mine. So I was like, I have an idea. I'm going to try to make a slime farm by strip mining. And then I'm going to like cover all these bases. So I think right now it's just going down the list, making sure I have other projects, because when you run around your world in Minecraft, you are constantly thinking of things that you have to do in order to be effective or even just fun or to complete your build in the way you want to do it. So I'd say when in doubt, I just go down the list, or when I've completed that list, I push myself. I try to build in a way I've never built. I try to use blocks I've never used. Birch, acacia, I literally never use them. And so I force myself to make a build with them because I'm like, you know what? I want to learn how to use this block effectively, so I'm going to push myself to use it.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty good. I like the idea of building through creative block in that way. And that's cool. And you've built a pretty large like acacia and sandstone build is the one that I've been seeing come together, and that's come together really well. So evidently it's a strategy that works.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
I'm starting to get distracted with that too. There's too much open floor plan. I'm not used to it.
How about you, Joel? When you can play Minecraft, at least, what do you do to kind of recharge your Minecraft batteries? Or is it something that you actually take more time away?
No, any time away from Minecraft is usually due to other responsibilities or, game ending bugs. I feel like when I have projects that I'm either burnt out on or perhaps don't have like the mental capacity in that session, like you're chill, you want to play Minecraft late at night just to kind of chill out before bed instead of watching TV, but you don't want to build a circle, right? Yep. Like you don't have that in you right now. That's where I miss the collection part of Minecraft, like because we were so end game on the Citadel, and my swamp mine is a giant strip mine with a beacon that's empty. Like, I mean, all the stone is in chests. Like, I've got all the things. I don't need to dig for anything. Then I turn to places in the server that are either yet unfinished or very, very rudimentary. We have a lot of cobblestone paths in the Nether. There's a lot of open Nether, and I find that tunnel building is very straightforward. Like it's if I'm laying in a new one, then it really is just digging out netherrack and placing down cobblestone. However, if I'm refinishing one that's already been laid in, then that's even less thinking. It's like you design a simple, repeatable pattern, and then it's just a matter of stripping out the old blocks and putting in the new. You barely have to think about it. And I find that pretty relaxing. It's a nice way to kind of give your brain a break from trying to think about something that looks good, how to fit a build into something, how do you reveal this build in the landscape, all that kind of stuff that can be very complicated and heavy. If you're just kind of like digging out, a tunnel, or I find sometimes I putter. Like there's always something about certain builds that I don't like. Or for example, when say like 1.14 came out and you had lanterns are now available, I was popping around sometimes, going through the Dartmouth Meadows, going through some of my builds, going like, oh wow, I've always hated that torch. Let's change that, and so that ends up taking, I can spend an hour just kind of like bopping around and tweaking things here and there. All of a sudden you've got textures and andesite and smooth stone stairs and all these different things that we have now. And so I've gone through and changed a bunch of stuff. One thing was purely by accident. We had a creeper explosion near our main nether portal. And in repairing that nether portal that is made to look like it's part of a crack in a rock, I realized, ooh, wait a minute, I have I have stone slabs, I've got stone stairs, I've got andesite stairs. So I redid that in rebuilding it, and that was just a simple task. It was only about something that took about 20 minutes, but it was a nice break from some of the larger stuff. Beyond that, I would say like any kind of big technical thing where you've got to like slab or mob proof or do something a large area, like buttons or carpet or lots and lots and lots of slabs like that, I find therapeutic. You don't have to think about it. You're still getting the satisfaction of playing Minecraft, but you're really just contributing to a much, much larger project.
For me, it's chopping wood, and it's one of those things that now chopping wood is sort of more automatable thanks to TNT dropping all of the blocks that it blows up. I find a lot of people still like you were saying earlier, Devon, with having a sheep farm that you shear manually, and everyone's saying, but you can automate this. Like, people tell me about that about wood all of the time, but I now every Tuesday I stream and I call it Chopping Tuesday, and I gather resources. It's not always chopping wood, and sometimes I kind of chop more metaphorical stuff, like we are chopping the lack of light around this farm that I need to light up. But a lot of the time I will just go in and harvest wood, because I use wood everywhere. I'm building sort of fairly medieval in style, or the wood textures are kind of versatile for some other stuff I want to build. I end up gathering a ton of wood, and I run out of wood so regularly, typically the spruce, dark oak, and oak, that I just need to get more constantly. And sometimes that stuff isn't convenient to farm automatically, or I just haven't reached the stage in my world where I've settled on a farm design that I like. And I find that's a really good way of just kind of vegging out and being able to recharge your batteries a little bit while staying in Minecraft and contributing to future projects. It's a task that takes little to no effort. I get to the point where my axe is nearly broken, I go and repair it, I carry on chopping wood, and I find that stuff tends to be kind of therapeutic. People talk about mining in Minecraft being therapeutic, even if you're not instantly mining with a beacon so you're getting tons and tons of materials. Some people just like to do some mindless mining for a little while. And Joel, you talked on the Realm of Vaston a while back about how you'll find some people will just log in to dig for other people, right? You'll find you kind of specify an area and you're like, just dig me a giant hole there so I can build some kind of farm, or just like, have a ton of resources. And people will do that because that's how they like to, unwind after a long day of work or something like that. And when Minecraft is your work, as it is for some, you kind of have to find ways of doing that, of recharging your batteries while still being part of the ecosystem and the environment. And I find, resource gathering is usually something that you can switch off all of the other aspects of your brain that would probably tire you out and get some of that recharge.
Fixit and I used to joke about playing with Crafting Mantis. You don't play with Crafting Mantis, you aim her at targets. But yeah, like that, I find it very satisfying. I don't find it very productive to dig a hole. It's one of those things that, like, it's not necessarily fun, but there's something very satisfying about, like, well, I need this 20 by 20 by 20 like box cleared out, and I'm just gonna go do it. Or like for me, it was clearing off like the land masses near my witch hut for my own witch farm. And once I started going, it's like, no, I can't stop. Like, it's this island is half gone. I can't leave it half gone. I have to take the island away. Like, it's finishing things like that halfway through. I find that it's weird. Like, it does feel like work sometimes, but it's a game, so like you're obviously enjoying it. But there's some sort of weird completionist thing that gets a hold of me, where I can be fine with, once I've finished that island, if there's another island that has to go, I can leave it. Unless I start that island now. If I start that island now, then before I leave, that island has to be gone. Yeah. Right? Like, it's one of those things where, like, I like to complete tasks rather than leave them half finished in the game.
Well, it's like tree caps, right? You mine half the tree and you leave the top.
And you just have a bunch of floaty, leafy platforms everywhere, and it's not. It looks so natural.
I'm gleaning into some of the rules that might be part of your server list.
I've done that as well, though. I didn't like an island that was too close to me, so I deleted the island.
Yeah, it's fun. It's an interesting experience to really take large land masses and remove them. It really does change the way that the game looks, like when you walk around different vistas and stuff. But for my topic this week, we've sort of touched on it already, but I did want to kind of pose it to both our listeners and you guys as well, with regards to updating to the latest Minecraft release when it comes out. Do you update right away? Do you wait to see if other players report on potential bugs before updating? I find that I have been on the fence. I know on this podcast I have said I am no longer going to update immediately because I have been burned, and then the next week I'm updating immediately because I need to, because like you said, Devon, there's something that's causing so many issues, like a trade UI bug, or there's something happening. Like for me, it's this vsync bug. If there's a chance that 14.4 is going to fix everything that I'm experiencing right now in 14.3, and I can then get back into playing the game, then I feel like I want to take that risk. I'm hoping it's not going to break, I don't know, farms or something, but because that seems to be par for the course. Now, I generally will wait for big ones like 112 to 113, 113 to 114. I think we waited for 114.2 before we updated because there was that chunk loading bug that was a real problem. But I feel like for me, I've been more and more on the fence lately of just not being able to decide, like, should I wait to see? Should I update right away? And for me right now, I think it's based on the situation because of the bugs that are happening right now. And it's not a major shift. It's not a shift to the next version. It's just a shift to like the latest update for this version of Minecraft, to the Village and Pillage update. I'm more likely to update to this as soon as I have an opportunity to back up the server and maybe try it out quickly on a test world to see if it works. Because if it will fix my bug problems and get me back into playing Minecraft, then I'm willing to take whatever gameplay function is, or gameplay feature might break over the fact that I can't play the game. I'm wondering specifically, and I am a light to moderate content creator. I stream once or twice a week, and I do about a video a week on YouTube, give or take. I can't imagine the pressure that would be on people that stream like yourself, Devin, 5 days a week, or Jonny that's putting out videos 5 days a week. If a bug in Minecraft, whether it was a technical game bug that didn't allow you to play, or if it was a feature in the game that was bugged that was prohibiting you from moving forward, like you're in the middle of building a villager breeder and then villager breeding just starts changing like left, right, and center, that sort of thing. So Devin, I'll pose it to you first. I know that you mentioned that you guys update right away on your multiplayer server. Do you have any single player worlds, or do you have any other servers that maybe are more tentative with the updates?
Well, I solely play on the 8-bit and the 240p servers. Those take up the majority of my time, and then when I'm not playing those, I try to play other games so I don't get burnt out on Minecraft. So what we usually do is once a stable version comes out, we try to update as soon as possible. But we have come across the issue where we did update too soon to the point where our plugins were not updated, and that subsequently caused crashes. So we actually had to downgrade. I think this was the difference between 14.2 and 14.3. We actually had to downgrade back to 14.2 because our plugins weren't updated for 14.3, kept causing crashes. And this was happening to me midstream when this was happening. So usually we try to update as soon as we can, and that's fine if it's live. We do regular server restarts, so it's very easy for us to tweak things, restart it real quick, and without our people being too upset. But it did cause actually quite a few issues of people losing villagers. We had a fully functioning village in our spawn where half the villagers and all of their iron golems were gone.
Wow.
Because of this change and update and this constant set of restarts, which it's fixable. And it gives me more stuff to do. Darn. Mm-hmm. But so it was a little frustrating, and I always feel bad for the community because out of everybody, they're the ones who have to suffer through it the most.
Yeah. And I think personally, as somebody who I try and stay kind of, if not on the cutting edge, because I'm not playing in the snapshots and pre-releases, but as somebody who is producing a YouTube series that's focused heavily on like what the new features are, and I kind of have to be a little bit ahead of the curve, so I'm explaining stuff that people are then going to go and check out, then I try and update as soon as new changes come out just so I can stay on top of things. But I know a lot of people who won't play a new release until Optifine is available for it, simply because their hardware won't keep up. So that's kind of a similar situation to your plugins not really updating, is if somebody can't play without Optifine because of FPS issues, they've got old hardware and they just can't really play Minecraft at like a playable frame rate without it, then that's kind of an issue for people, especially for larger updates like the one from 112 to 113. Optifine took about 3 months to actually come out with a full version, and sometimes that's because incremental updates to the from the Mojang team themselves is kind of delaying stuff. But I think there are definitely those things to consider about it. Like it can be a performance thing just as much as it can be a feature thing, and some stuff breaking like game mechanics and so forth. Sometimes it's as much as I can't even play until Optifine is released, and some of the performance like issues are kept in check at that stage.
Yeah.
And I do want to add something on, if that's all right.
Oh, absolutely.
So you brought up performance, and when it comes to content creation, I use shaders, and you brought up Optifine.
Yeah.
And so that's also a huge piece for me, is because when Optifine isn't updated yet either, then my shaders aren't there, which means the content I'm creating and the production quality that I'm making isn't at like on par with what I usually do, which can also be a little bit disruptive for some viewers as well.
Mm-hmm. And typically people coming into your chat who might not be as familiar with the Minecraft ecosystem are going to be asking like, why does your Minecraft look different? And then you're constantly having to answer the question about like, Optifine isn't ready yet, so I can't have my shaders. And yeah, it adds additional layers on top of just like, this doesn't look the way I want it, and now I have to explain to everybody why it doesn't look the way I want it as well. But yeah, I think as far as like I draw the line at updating to unstable versions. Like, I wouldn't put the survival guide world into snapshots just to have like the first look at what the features are. Whenever snapshots and development features come out, I'm always trying those out in test worlds. But as far as the latest like full releases go, if they're putting out a 1.14.4, I'm going to assume that it's okay for me to play, which obviously, as we know from the original 1.14 update, is not always a safe assumption. But it's also something that I can't really avoid at this stage. I kind of have to be in there and mixing it up and finding out what the quirks are. And ultimately, sometimes if you've got a forgiving enough audience, then they can be forgiving enough of those things if you just explain what's going on and mention that, you know, it's been reported in various bug trackers, Mojang is fixing it. Let's just carry on and play regardless.
And I have found some solace in seeing very experienced Minecraft players on YouTube dealing with and getting frustrated with the same gameplay features and or bugs that I am experiencing. Not the Mac one, but like other gameplay stuff, entities disappearing, that kind of stuff. And when you realize that, and they're just being straightforward about it and being like, yeah, no, this is buggy, this is a real problem, this is why we haven't been to this part of the world in the last couple weeks on the videos, is because it lags or it's unplayable or whatever. And you go, oh, thank goodness it's not just me. Like I'm glad that it's not just, because a lot of these times you just kind of feel like, not necessarily what did you go wrong, but why is this happening to just me, when then really it's happening to pretty much everybody when it's a game related problem. I will be happy if they can focus on functionality over features. Like I can wait for villagers to be able to be traded with and all that kind of stuff. I would really like to be able to get back into playing the game and continue creating content and hanging out with the community. I know I can play and have played other games, but it's also the better reaction and the through line for the community at the moment is Minecraft. So it'd be good to get back to that.
As always, if folks at home have any contributions to this, if you have thought of anything in the last few discussion points that you really want to send us an email, please do. Joel will have the email address for you shortly. But that is going to be it for this episode of The Spawn Chunks. Devin, thank you so much for taking the time to spend an hour with us chatting about Minecraft. Where can people find you online if they want to know about more of the stuff that what you do?
You can find me at twitch.tv/TheHotDish. Very simple, no underscores. Or you can also follow me on Twitter at TheRealHotDish, because somebody stole my
I was going to say, is there a fake hot dish out there? An imposter?
There is a fake hot dish who made their account in 2009.
Those account squatters, they've come back from the future to steal your hot dishes. All right, folks,
yeah, I was upset.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Spawn Chunks. You can find more information about the show and links to some of the stuff we talked about today at thespawnchunks.com. The music for the show was composed by me, and The Spawn Chunks is, as always, proud to be a listener-supported podcast. If you get some value out of the show, why not consider putting some value back in? You can visit patreon.com/thespawnchunks to join our community, where pledging at any level will get you an invite to our patrons-only Discord chat, and you can even listen to the pre- and post-show, The Render Distance, where we are going to be talking with Devin a little bit more. more. It also gets us to our closer to our next goal, which is the chunk mail dispenser becoming unlocked again. We are currently at 112 patrons, which is up 2 from last week. Pleasure to have you guys as always, and a special thanks to our content engineers JD Williamson and Yitz for their support on this episode.
Sharing the podcast with your friends is the easiest way to support the show. You can find us at The Spun Chunks on Twitter and Instagram, but a personal recommendation is by far the best way to share the podcast with server mates, other places that you talk about Minecraft, wherever that may be, maybe around the water cooler at work or maybe on the playground, who knows. Just poke a friend in the arm and tell them that this is a good show and the community around it is a lot of fun, and they should check it out. It would go a long way for us. We would very much appreciate it. And it's free. You can email the show at thespunchunks@gmail.com. Once again, thespunchunks@gmail.com. Best way to get in touch. You can find the Spun Chunks by name on your favorite podcast platform. That includes iTunes, Android, Stitcher, and Spotify. And of course, you can find the render distance on the Patreon-only RSS feed. That is at patreon.com/thespunchunks.
My name is PixelRiffs, and you can find most of what I do at youtube.com/PixelRiffs, where I attempt to make sense of this crazy and wonderful game in a series called the Minecraft Survival Guide. I'm also the voice of the unofficial Hermitcraft Recap, which you can find through a quick YouTube search. I stream 3 days a week on Twitch, where I play a variety of other games. Aside from that, I'm at PixelRiffs on Twitter and Instagram, and the rest of the time you'll probably find me in the Hot Dishes chats. Joel, where can people find you online?
You can find me online at joelduggan.com. That is where I have my illustration and design portfolio. If you'd like to see some of my work in the wild, you can go check out Jonny at twitch.tv/pixelriffs, because I just finished doing his stream sub badges.
Oh, and they look lovely. They look lovely.
Thanks, man. They were a lot of fun. So if people want to check that out, they can see it over there. And sometimes when I'm working on that kind of stuff, I stream it. So at twitch.tv/joelduggan, you will find me playing Minecraft, but you will also find me doing artwork. So check that out over there. That's kind of where I want to point everyone.
Thanks for visiting the Spawn Chunks. The world outside is infinite, and the snacks are on us.